Hi, welcome back to another video. If you're new to my channel, hi and welcome. My name is Maria, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate how I crochet this octopus. To begin, we are going to be crocheting with a 3.5mm crochet hook. And then I have Red Heart number 4 medium weight yarn. I'm using a blue, and then we will be using gray later on, same brand. And you don't need very much of either color. This is a brand new scheme of yarn, so I will show you what it looks like. It'll look like we barely used any of it. Okay, so to begin, we are going to do a slip knot, chain 1, and this is just how I do my magic circle. Now I make a circle, and then around the tail and our circle that we just made, I'm going to be making 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then pull the loop tight. And then we are going to do 2 single crochets into each stitch around, into each of those 6 stitches from the previous row. So we're going to do 12 single crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now we are going to want to mark our stitch, and I actually forgot to grab a stitch marker, so 1 minute. Okay, so I'm just going to use a piece of yarn as my stitch marker. I'm going to place it in that last single crochet, that we just made. Okay, now for this row, we are going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch and then 1 single crochet in the next stitch. And we are going to repeat that until we meet our stitch marker. Okay, so 1, 2, and then 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and then 2 single crochets in the next. So we have 1, 2, and then 1 single crochet in the next, and then 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, and then when I get to my stitch marker, I don't pull out my strand of yarn. I bring them both to the front, and then just right around it, I will still go into the stitch. And then, I just don't have to pull the yarn through like by taking my crochet hook out or anything. Okay, so for this row, we're gonna do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, and then 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then 2 single crochets in the next, and then 1 single crochet in the next 2. So there's 1, 2, Okay, and then this time I will take that same strand of yarn and I'll pull it to the back, and then again do the same thing, just crochet right over top of that, and then it's marked for the next row. So for this row we're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch and then 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. And this will be our last increase row. And then 2 single crochets in the next stitch, and then 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. And then 2 single crochets in the next stitch. Okay, and at this point I am going to just pull my stitch marker out, and we are going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch around, and we're going to do this until we reach a total of 16 rows. And I'm going to pause my video here and I will meet you guys back here once I reach the 16th row. Okay, I have completed all 16 rows. So I am going to add my piece of yarn for my stitch marker, because now we are going to be working into decreases to finish up our oval shape. So for the decreases, I do an invisible decrease. So what you do to do an invisible decrease is you will go into the front loop of your first stitch and then the front loop of the second stitch, instead of going through both of the loops. So instead of going through like the entire V like you originally would, you just go into the 2 front loops. Then you yarn over and pull through the front 2 loops, and now you'll have the 2 loops on your hook. You'll yarn over and pull through both of those loops, and that is a invisible decrease. Now in the next 3 stitches we will just do 1 single crochet in the next 3. So there's 1, 2, and 3, and I'll demonstrate again. We're going to do an invisible decrease. So we are going to insert into the front loop of our first stitch and insert into the front loop of our second stitch, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through the last 2 loops. And then we will do 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, and 3, and then we will do another invisible decrease. And then 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. And we're going to complete this until we meet our stitch marker. Okay, and then we will pull the yarn forward and do a single crochet. Okay, and then for the next row, we are going to do single crochet 2 together, and then we will do 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. 1, 2, and then single crochet 2 together. And then 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So 1, 2. Okay, and then for the next row, we are going to do single crochet 2 together. Okay, so single crochet 2 together, and then 1 single crochet in the next stitch. So single crochet 2 together, and then 1 single crochet in the next stitch. And we will continue this until we meet our stitch marker. Okay, and then I pull a large loop. I'm gonna pull out that as well. I'm going to grab my polyfill, and I like to break this up into smaller chunks because if you put it in there with it bunched up, it'll make the octopus look like it is kind of lumpy. Okay, so I take this and start stuffing it right in our hole. And I just hold the our yarn pieces off to the side. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how that is stuffed. You don't want to overstuff it because if you overstuff it, you will start to see your stuffing come through the holes, and I don't like the look of that at all. And the stuffing can start coming out as well. Okay, I'm going to join my stitch marker, And I just take that out because one less piece of yarn to have to hold as you are trying to stuff everything into the stuffing or into the octopus. Okay, so for this part we are going to do single crochet 2 together and then 1 single crochet in the next stitch. It is very important that you do not grab any of the polyfill because if you crochet over top of the polyfill stuffing, it'll make it look like your octopus is falling apart or losing some of the stuffing, and it is really hard to push the stuffing back in there if you crochet over top of it. So really try to avoid it. It's really easy to avoid it when you do your single crochet 2 together, and then when I get to my single crochet row, I just right before, or the single crochet stitch, right before that I just push the stuffing down or over to the side, and it will avoid it getting wrapped in with the yarn. Okay, and at this point we will have 8 stitches, and right here all we do, so I just did the last one, we do have a little bit of a hole there, but that is okay. After we do all 8 of the tentacles, then we will come back in and we will sew that together. So from this point, for our first, I do not slip stitch or do anything, just right from doing that last single crochet, I chain 30, and then in the second chain from the hook I do 2 single crochets, and you will do 2 single crochets in each stitch until we meet the base of our octopus. And if you do not want your tentacles to be as curly as they come out by doing 2 single crochets into each stitch, you can do 2 single crochets into one stitch and then 1 single crochet into the next stitch. However, I love the look that it gets from doing 2 single crochets into each stitch, so that is what I choose to do. We are going to be changing the colors on the tentacles. We will be putting gray in, so once I am done with this first tentacle, you'll be able to see the easy color switch that I make. You can also change the length of your tentacles by obviously chaining more or less, and again I like the length that the 30 chain provides, and so that's what I choose to do. Oops. And then for my octopus here, we are going to sew on some eyes. If you were using safety eyes though, you would have definitely wanted to put those eyes in before you started doing your decrease rows. Okay, so into the next stitch, I slip stitch, and then cut my yarn. I'm not leaving a very long tail because we will be stuffing all of the tails into the octopus, so I don't like a very long tail. The least amount of yarn needing to be stuffed in is best. I attach my gray yarn with a slip stitch, and then I chain 30. And then 2 single crochets into the second chain from the hook and in all the other chains. And then once I do a couple of my 2 single crochets into each stitch, I put my crochet hook down and I will tie a knot from the blue yarn to the gray yarn, and I'll double knot it. And then after I double knot it to keep it pretty neat down here, I just stuff my yarn into the bottom of the octopus. Okay, and I keep on doing this all the way around. I'm gonna pause this video here and I will meet you guys back here when I am done with all of my tentacles. There will be 4 gray and 4 blue, making the 8 total. Okay, so here is my octopus. I leave a long tail at the end because I'm going to use this to close up the bottom of the octopus there. And then just before we move on, I wanted to show you guys, here is the dent in the skein of yarn that I use. So really not very much yarn needed to make this. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we are going to make a star that is going to go on the octopus's head, and the star, we're going to do it in the gray. So we are going to do a slip knot, chain 1, make a magic circle, and then in the magic circle I'm going to single crochet 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I'm going to pull our circle closed, and then in our first single crochet I'm going to slip stitch, chain 4. In the second chain from the hook we are going to slip stitch. In the next stitch we are going to single crochet, and then in the final stitch we're going to do a half double crochet. We are then going to skip a stitch and we are going to slip stitch into the following stitch. And that is our first peak of our heart. Again, we are going to chain 4. In the second chain from the hook, we will slip stitch. In the next chain, we will single crochet. And then in the next one, we will half double crochet. We will skip a stitch on our beginning magic circle, and we will slip stitch into the next stitch. We are going to complete this all the way around our star. And then at the end, we are going to want to leave a long tail because that is what we are going to use to sew this star onto the octopus. And if you wish for this to be a little bit larger on the octopus, you could always change your crochet hook. I like the size of using the 3.5, so I personally do not change it. Okay, here is my final peak. And again, you just skip one stitch and slip stitch into the following. And then cut the yarn. And there is the star. Okay, now we are going to be using some black yarn for the eye. This is going to be for the eyelids, and just do, I don't know, maybe 18 inches here, maybe that is. And then this is super fine number 1. I think they call this crochet thread. And we will, same size, probably about 18 inches. And we probably won't use much at all, but I like to have a little extra on our crochet needle. Okay, so first I am going to attach my yarn needle, and this is the needle that I'm using. It has a nice point on the end, but it's large enough here to be able to put the yarn through. So first, I am going to demonstrate how we close up the bottom of the octopus. At this point, make sure that it is as full as you want it to be. And then all we will do is just poke the yarn needle into stitches all the way around this circle, going very slow because you want to make sure that you don't grab any of the tentacles. Oops. And where the knots were made, I go just above the knots. Okay, and as you see there, it's starting to close very nicely. Okay, and then once I make my way all the way around, oh, I'm gonna do a couple more because it didn't close up. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so since I made it all the way around, I now go in straight on this side, and then I'm going to go straight across on this side. And that closed up very good. If you want to do it a couple more times, do it as many times as you feel comfortable with. And then I just come out the top here, use my scissors, I'll cut it back a little bit, and then I will just poke all of this into the octopus. And then next, I like to sew on the star. And I just, usually I'll leave a little bit longer of a tail here, and I made a mistake of, I don't know if this is long enough. That'll work. Not ideal, but it'll work. Just to hide that other tail. So yeah, just make sure that you leave a long enough tail there if you don't crochet over top of the tail, which I did not. Okay, so I just set this right on here. Definitely take a look at your octopus to make sure that sometimes your crochet rows could be kind of at a diagonal, where make sure that where you put the star, it seems to be pretty straight, because we do want the eyeballs to be somewhat straight. So just take a look that your rows may not be. I've ran into that before. So I just place the star right on top of where we want it, and I go poke it into the star, and then I come up at the end of the point and you can use sewing needles to hold this down. I find that it works fine with just me holding on to it like this. Make sure that you pull your yarn tight. Be careful not to poke yourself. Okay, there is the star. So to finish this off, I'm just going to go in and poke it out anywhere. And then I just do this a couple of times, going into the body of the octopus and then coming back out through the star. And then for this, I just pull it tight and cut it as close to the star as possible, making sure that you don't cut the star, and then it will disappear. So now onto the eyes. First, we will start with our crochet or our yarn. And I go in at the side of the octopus, and then I like to make the eyes kind of line up with this bottom part of the circle. So I'm going to come out right in this stitch. And then when you pull this, just leave it where there is a couple of inches out, because we're going to come at the end and we're going to tie a knot and then stuff that in there. So definitely leave enough to be able to secure it. Okay, and so from here, I skip one stitch and I'm going to go into the next stitch, and then I'm going to poke down into the octopus and come out in the first stitch that we started in, but I'm also going to grab and go between the yarn. Okay, and then you don't want to pull this super tight, you want to leave it enough so that you make a U shape for your eyelid. Okay, and then at this point I just go right into the yarn and come back out, and then pull this tight, and if you see, it will move that side of your eyelid. And then I do the same exact thing, and I will just grab the yarn and come up like that. And then I just will go right into this hole, and then we're going to skip a stitch and come out into the next stitch to make our second eye. So there's one so far. And then same thing, skip a stitch. Make sure that your eyelids are looking the same or close to. Okay, now I poke into here and then come out in the same stitch that we started in. You don't want to pull too tight because it could make your eye not have the curve anymore. And then I just tie a knot in this, and then I just cut them a little bit to where there's not too much yarn being pushed into the octopus. Like you didn't even know it was in there. Okay, now we will do this pretty much the same thing, but this time we are going to be using the thread, and I go in a different hole, but I come out in the same part that we started the eyelash or the eyelid. Okay, and then for this I do 5 eyelashes, and I just go into the stitches and try to make them all the same. Since this is blue, like for a boy, I do very small, where for the girl doing a pink one, I may make the eyelashes a little bit longer, but for the boy I just do it very simple, little, to where it has some character to it. Okay, and then I will poke here and then just go right into the next eye. And so far I'm liking what that looks like. And if this is your first time making it, just stick with it. Trust me, my first octopus did not look like this, especially doing the eyelids. It would drive me crazy that I could not get them to be spaced properly, and now I'm gonna jinx myself and not like what this one is gonna come out looking like. Oops. Okay, and then again, just go out the same stitch that we started in. And yeah, kind of wasteful on this thread. Definitely cut a lot larger piece than what we needed. Okay, here is our finished octopus. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you like this video. That really helps my channel out. And hit that subscribe button so that you'll be notified when I upload my next video. And I hope you guys have a great night, and thank you again so much for watching. Bye!